Welcome in, everybody. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so it's no secret that I love aliens and I love pirates. A bunch of people do. Now, it is noteworthy that anytime we have a story about aliens on some distant world and they're dealing with less advanced tech than the kind they would need for, spacefaring capabilities, so they're planet bound, right? They're kind of us. They're not going anywhere out into space. They are stuck on the planet. Stories like that always have some kind of human interaction, right? We reach this planet somehow, and bam, that's how the story happens. Like the Avatar movies, Well, what if we just had the aliens, right? No humans at all. We don't necessarily have to have the Dancing with Wolves backdrop, It could be something else, right? It could be, I don't know, let's say, how about pirates? We could be fiddling around with, an absolute spectacle of a story here. Imagine the shipbuilding alone. What would seafaring vessels look like on alien oceans? That's a fantastic thought to me. That sets my imagination into overdrive. Would they be made out of wood or a type of metal? Could they be fastened out of stone? Maybe there's some newfound alien element. Maybe they could harvest some kind of crystals that they can grow into certain shapes, and they mesh these crystalline growths together, and they make a ship out of that. The possibilities are really fun, right? I mean, that's just what I just come up with off the top of my head. Put a whole writer's room together about this, and oh boy. Now, the movie that comes to mind whenever I'm thinking on this is the Mortal Engines movie. I know a lot of people probably don't remember this, but it was basically Hugo Weaving on this massive city tank thing that rolls around and opens up like these giant mandible-looking mechanical mouth things, and they eat other roving smaller city tanks for parts and scraps. Now, did humanity need to have their cities on these massive tank things? I don't think so. Not really. I think they did it in an effort to roll around and look for materials and resources, but regardless, it was super cool. So, I mean, what if we had the same kind of creativity applied to our alien ocean faring ships? And I think, again, the ideas would be endless with the ship creation alone. To say less of the aliens themselves, the sea creatures that they would have to fight, right? Think of the overall adventures to be had, right? Think of how this alien world works exactly. If it's a water world situation where the entire surface of the planet is pretty much covered by water, maybe we have some signs type aliens that are weak to water somehow, where they develop a weakness to water over time. Maybe this could be their origin story. I mean, hell, now I think about it, that could be a rough outline for a potential origin story for the Signs aliens. Maybe they come from a planet that, instead of what we fear, right? We fear the oceans drying up and evaporating, and we die of thirst. Maybe the opposite happens to them, right? Maybe the Signs aliens planet becomes inhospitable because of this massive outpouring of ocean that just engulfs their planet. And maybe they have to venture out and conquer a Goldilocks planet like Earth. Though it never did make much sense to me why these aliens choose to try to invade a planet that's 70% water. But, maybe they didn't have any other choice. So, whenever they leave Earth, maybe they're leaving to their detriment. They're doomed to wander the vastness of space, because planets with a sustainable atmosphere like Earth are very difficult to find. So, they happen upon Earth. A few of them get sniped by some pots full of water, and then the rest of them, they get the report of that, and they say, screw that, and they fly off. Okay, so the Signs aliens' home planet, this water world, it's got these aliens sailing the seas. Maybe there's a water-bound culture on this world that's just rife with adventure. Now, in this setting, piracy is almost a certainty. If you scale their technology correctly, right? They don't have, say, major industry. They don't have even as advanced technology as we do. Let's say they're a couple hundred years ahead of the Na'vi from the Avatar movies, and they're, they've got some big ships. Maybe they're pulled by some sort of alien whales or something. Maybe like a Leviathan or a Kraken or something. That'd be so cool. So yeah, this world is going to give rise to piracy pretty immediately. And I don't think that there's any massive audience that wouldn't want this. I think that's been proven between projects like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and their fan base, or the One Piece anime and their incredibly massive fan base. So between those two, you have millions of people who would definitely be interested in this story. It's at face value this action-packed adventure of seafaring scoundrels. So really, I just want alien pirates on the open oceans, pillaging and plundering their devious little cold-blooded hearts out. And I think the best thing for it is to go maybe 100% original story on this, to write something completely new. The temptation to do, the whole treasure planet thing, that's certainly going to be there. The temptation to integrate actual historical pirate lore, right? The pirate adaptations that we got with say Black Sails, because it used actual historical figures from the Caribbean pirates. The temptation to do that is going to be really, really strong in writing this story. So I think we definitely have to fight that. And I'm sure there's going to be elements that resonate with stories and myths that came before this. There's going to be the hierarchical structures and the naval ranks and, the goals of survive and thrive that are just the same as what we as humans have in real life. But, those things are just really there to get us into the pathos of the story, right? They're there to form some sort of tether that allows us as an audience to become initially invested in what's going on. But the fun thing about that is, once we're in there, once we are hooked as an audience, the need for those relatable hooks and tethers can go away. Because there's no need to pull us in anymore. The writers will have established a storyline and a world, and will have explained to us enough detail that the audience will be able to build the interest on our own. Star Trek and Star Wars did this really, really well. What does Star Wars open up with? You got a princess, you got a farm boy. Okay, yeah, we've got plenty of stories about characters like that, and yeah, we can follow. Let's go. What does Star Trek give us? It's a ton of Star Trek episodes, and I'm mostly thinking of the OG Picard Star Trek, right? Next Gen. We have a lot of holodeck episodes, right, where they're either playing out like old Navy scenarios, or they're Sherlock Holmes. They're like 1920s gangsters, things like that. So they give us these things that we can relate to and that we can hook into and identify with, and say, oh yeah, I know what that is, or I know, yeah, I've done that, or oh, I did that play, or I read a story about a princess, or I grew up with like this. Really good stories give us these tethers to pull ourselves into the world that's being told to us. And once we're invested, we don't need those anymore. And it's a really, really fun writing tool. As a writer, I think it can kind of get really stale, and you want to get out of there like really quickly. You don't want to be in the tether too long. You want to get out of it and start droning out all of the details, right? You want to share the world that you've created as quickly as possible and in as much in-depth detail as possible. So, once we're fully invested into our pirate adventure, we can have a ton more given to us, right? And again, we saw this with franchises like Pirates of the Caribbean and One Piece. They eased us in and then uploaded a vast world of complicated and nuanced story with a ton of specialized elements. And it might just be a story that I write out. I really, really like this story, the sound of it. It's got everything I love. It's got adventure, it's got aliens, it's got oceans and pirates. So yeah, I think it would be pretty easy for things to get away from me as a writer, and it would be really tough not to immediately want to turn it into an absolute epic, right? Just have giant fights against monstrous creatures and competing pirate factions. But I would try my best, and I would most likely fail. Maybe this is my Netflix pitch. I don't know. Maybe I write this out as a as a screenplay. Throw it to Netflix. See what happens. But yeah, that is all I have time for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around for more Sci-Fi Unchained. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends, and may the Force be with us all.